my final year project. My research project, it was based on investigating a theoretical model for assessing end users' adoption and satisfaction of ERP systems in mid-sized private organizations in Guyana. My presentation will take the following outline. Introduction, definition, and ERP system according to Winrick and Amit 2009 is an information system package that integrates a number of business processes in the operation of an organization. Also, and end user acceptance is involves the level of adoption and satisfaction of ERP systems. And to note, researchers argue that ERP systems are the most difficult with implementation since it's complex and sophisticated, especially in developing countries, which results in high failures. And also to note, for example, Waste Management Incorporated, after spending $45 million on the total $250 million, which was budgeted for an ERP system, aborted implementation because of initial failures. Thus, for such a system to succeed, the users must be able to understand fully how the system works and hence unequivocally will accept the responsibility. Also, end users' acceptance should directly be linked to end users' adoption and satisfaction. Failure to do this causes end users to reject the system by underutilizing it. And that brings me to my problem statement. Discovered in the literature is a shortage of research studies related to ERP systems in developing countries, precisely in mid-sized private organizations in Guyana. And what was also revealed in the literature, it showed that the implementation of ERP system in developed countries have experienced a high failure rate due to ineffective approaches that fails at gaining end users' acceptance. And if this kind of failure rate can take place in developed countries, Guyana is no exception, especially with the traditional factors that impacts users' acceptance, like culture, infrastructure, and etc. Also, from the literature, there is a knowledge gap relating to the factors that impacts end users' acceptance of ERP system in mid-sized private organizations in Guyana. So this is generally the problem statement. The research questions. What are the gaps in the literature relating to end users' acceptance of ERP systems in mid-sized private organization in Guyana? What are the factors that impacts end users' adoption and satisfaction of ERP system in mid-sized private organization in Guyana? And what model should be created to assess end users' adoption and satisfaction of ERP system in mid-sized private organization for enhancing these end users' acceptance generally of these systems. So the significance of my research, an extensive examination of the literature on ERPC shows that in developing countries like Guyana, there's been little to no research conducted on their acceptance. As such, the finding of this study will fill this gap. Also for management support, the findings will provide management with the key factors that impacts end users' adoption and satisfaction of ERP systems, which will help them plan better. And also for training, the findings will help contribute to ERP vendors and management with designing more effective training strategies that consider end users' adoption and satisfaction of ERP system in mid-sized private organizations in Guyana. And just an overview on my artifact. What I did, I went through the literature, and from the literature, it revealed that the following organizational factors are critical for successful ERP implementation. As such, the model was developed from these organizational factors, and they would have helped to form the independent constructs of the theoretical model that I would have constructed. And further, in developing the model, I would have went through the literature and recognized that there were a number of tested and proven information technology models. And I would have selected the ones that are associated with technology adoption and satisfaction. And also I selected these models because of their explanatory capabilities. As such, I went through the literature, examined these technology adoption and satisfaction models, and selected elements of them. And this would have helped me to further develop the theoretical model. And the aspects of these models that I would have selected would have helped form the dependent constructs of the model. And this was the initial proposed theoretical model I would have constructed from the literature. And it is based on both the independent constructs and the dependent constructs, and reflecting associations among the various constructs. The impact of the model's independent constructs, which are in the light purple, on system use and user satisfaction, which are in yellow, was measured through its effect on the dependent constructs, which are in light green. So as you can see, there are three aspects of constructs that represent the initial model I would have constructed from the literature review. And for the methodology aspect, I would have selected this framework for guiding my methodology in going ahead and test this model. The research onion model was used as a basis for guiding the research methodology. And according to Sanders 2016, the research onion framework provides an effective progression through which a research methodology can be designed. And the research model framework, generally for the methodology, I would have used the positivist research approach. Was used for the study since it promotes objectivity rather than subjectivity, relying on quantitative data for making deductions. And the approach constituted hypotheses deduced from the literature review, where they were tested using survey techniques with the aim of validating the model. The research was conducted in using 4 mid-sized private organizations in Guyana who have implemented ERP system. The sample data size being 65 respondents were collected with questionnaires and analyzed using SPSS and Smart PLS applications. The data was analyzed using the structural equation modeling technique for evaluating the validity of the relationships among the constructs of the model, after which the hypotheses were tested using multiple regression analysis technique. And after going through that excessive form of analyzing data and so forth, based on the hypothesis of the various association among the constructs, it would have generated these results. The table represents overall statistical findings of the 14 hypotheses that were tested for the validity of the model. The note is that out of the 14 tested hypotheses related to the different forms of relationship among the constructs, revealed that 4 of the association were not significant, while 2 of the associations showed weak association, and the other 8 associations revealed strong associations. The associations that were not significant and weak were contrary to the literature review. The reason for this finding might be that the measurement items of the respective constructs might have been inadequate for impacting the dependent constructs, or there might have been other explanations. And after recognizing that findings, the analysis of the proposed theoretical model revealed unanticipated findings contrary to the literature review. Nevertheless, the analysis was successful since it was able to identify the factors that positively and significantly influence end users' adoption and satisfaction of ERP system. As such, a proposed theoretical model was modified to feature only the significant parts that is displayed on the slide. As such, a refined theoretical model with positive and significant parts derived from the analysis can be used as a tool for assessing end users' adoption and satisfaction of ERP system in mid-sized private organizations in Guyana. And that time, I guess.
Yeah, just wrap up.
Yes, just to wrap up fast, the research objective attainment. The first objective was satisfied by extensively examining the literature. It showed that even though the finding of the study, not even though the finding of the study will contribute to filling the literature gap, and it could fill it in two aspects. It could help organizations to better plan in implement ERP system, and also academic contributions. The second and third objectives satisfied through the statistical analysis technique prove that training, system quality, management and support are critical success factors that influence users' perceived ease of use, perceived usefulness, and behavioral intention for the end user's adoption and satisfaction of this system. And the last objective was satisfied as well because the refined theoretical model can be used as a tool to assess end users' adoption and satisfaction of ERP systems in these organizations. And just the last slide for the limitation, the data was collected from one province of Guyana, which was used to represent the entire country, even though the results are relevant. For the survey with greater territorial scope will be necessary to increase the model explanatory capability. Also, the study was based on the positivist philosophy using quantitative method. This made the validity of the research very challenging since quantitative method involves summarizing data and statistically, which can sometimes distort the accuracy of the phenomenon. As such, this will require more extensive research studies. And also subjective factors might have influenced the intention of the study in terms of the behavior and attitude of end users. As such, a more robust study might be necessary to mitigate these subjective factors. And that would have brought me to the end of my presentation.